What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to explain the vocal chain of the chorus taken from the second episode of the Global Chronicle series. The track is titled Stay Alive and it features Simmons, CrackerJack and Gimson. So with that being said, I'm going to play you the chorus now and then we'll hop on into the mix.
Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside and stay alive. Stay inside, stay alive. Stay inside and stay alive. Stay inside, stay alive.
Zero's out for lunch.
Now you're probably going to have this song stuck in your head at the end of this video, but they're not in a bad thing, eh? Anyway, I'm briefly going to show you where the audio is being routed to so that you have a understanding of the signal flow. So to start off with, we have the two audio channels. These are both being routed to the chorus lead, and then the chorus lead is being routed to the lead vox, which is here. The reason for this is so that all of the lead vocals, such as the verses and the chorus, are processed together so that we have a coherent sound. And then the lead vox is then being routed down to the mix bus, which is then being sent to the print jack. As you can see, there's two effect sends. We have a widener and an auto tune. We'll briefly discuss these two a bit later on in the video, but as of for now, we're just showing you where the signal is flowing. And obviously, off these two sends, these are being sent down to the mix bus. So to start off with, the audio channels both have a Pro Q3 on them. Now the reason for this is so that we can remove any unwanted frequencies in the low end, such as low end noise, rumble, or anything like a plosive coming through the mix. This will stop us basically later on in the mix being interrupted when we're, sorting out the things like bass and stuff like that. So yeah, with that being said, we've obviously applied a high pass filter to it, which, like I said, has just cleaned up the audio in the low end. We do all of our processing on the aux channel. The reason for this is because obviously there's two audio channels. It wouldn't make any sense to process both of them in exactly the same manner, so we've sent them down to the chorus lead and processing them together. Now with that being said, the first instance on the chain is the Hollywood preamp. Now the Hollywood preamp is inserted so that we can saturate the audio and add definition to the sound. Now the Hollywood preamp is known to add a airy and add airiness and depth to the audio recording due to its characteristics. Now, as you can see, we haven't got an awful lot of saturation just due to the fact we didn't want to create too much harmonic distortion. If we had too much harmonic distortion in there, it tends to be a little bit too gritty, and it just wasn't desired for this particular recording. But with that being said, if we did want the sound to be overly distorted, we can use the mix knob down here to blend it back in as a parallel process. So anyway, that's our first instance. Next in the chain is the E squared deesser. Now what I'm going to do is explain the parameters of this deesser, and then I'll talk about the EQ curves, and then we'll demonstrate the deesser on and off. So to start off with, we've got the amount pot. Now it's a bit self-explanatory, this is the amount of deessing that is going to happen. Next, we have the sensitivity pot. Now, the sensitivity pot acts as a threshold. So, once the signal comes into the deesser, this will determine when and how much deessing happens. Over here, we have the output pots. So we have the gain pot, which is yet again self-explanatory, and the wet and dry. So this allows us to parallel process the signal. Over here, we have the sibilance controls. So we have an auto. So the auto can be thought of as an automatic dynamic EQ, which basically adjusts the frequency response of the sibilances. And then over here we have the smooth pot, which basically controls and rounds off the frequencies by adding a gentle bit of saturation so that it doesn't sound too harsh. So with that in mind, over here we have the EQ curves. So we have two EQ curves. We have a voiced EQ and a sibilant EQ. Now the voiced EQ basically allows us to manipulate the manipulate the EQ of the incoming signal. And the sibilant EQ allows us to obviously EQ what is being notched out when we are deessing. So with that being said, we've got what looks like a low pass filter on, and this is just taming those high sibilant frequencies. So I shall demonstrate it off, and then I shall demonstrate it with it on. So let's turn it off a moment. Let's turn the effects off as well.
Stay inside and stay alive. Stay inside, stay alive.
So there's a lot of sibilance happening there. So we shall unbypass it, and you can hear it in action.
Stay inside and stay alive. Stay inside, stay alive.
So as you can see on the spectrogram, it's taming those sibilant frequencies, and it's just reducing the harshness really. So moving on. Next in the chain is the Brainworks SSL console 4000. So it's probably worth mentioning first that if you are using this console and you want to use the EQ strip for the dynamics, then make sure you select the pre-dynamics. What this will do is it will place the EQ before the dynamics processing. So with that in mind, we have the filters up here. So we've applied a filter up to 122 Hertz. Now I know we've already applied it here, but just for safe measures, I've also applied it here. And also we've applied a low pass filter just to take away any it shouldn't be that low. Just bring it down a little bit more. Around about 18 I wanted to take it down to, if it'll let us. Anyway, yeah, this is just to tame any of the high frequencies and just, make it more controlled. Anyway, so moving on. So we've got the low frequencies. So to start off from the bottom, we've got a -1 dB notch at around 138 Hertz. Now this is just removing any of the boominess from the recording. Up in the low mid frequencies, we've got a broader bandwidth, and we've actually notched out, -3 dB at around about 367. Now this is basically removing any muddiness from the audio recording and allowing the presence of the vocal to come through the mix. So with that being said, the actual high mid frequencies I haven't touched just because the presence was there. I felt like the characteristics of the vocal sat nice in the mix, so I've left it. And then with that being said, I want to add a little bit of air around the vocal, so I've had a 2.1, 2 dB increased shelf at 14 kilohertz, if it will let us. So that's just basically adding air around the vocal. Now, moving on. So next in the chain is the compressor. Now, with the compressor, I learned a technique from Michael Stavro, where he uses the compressor in a certain way, which I'm going to demonstrate for you now. So the way in which Stavro approaches a compressor is to increase the ratio as high as possible, increase the threshold to as high as possible, and then have a fast release time. Now, the reason for this is so that we can focus mainly on the attack of the compressor. Now here we have the light. This is allowing us to have a fast attack when it's turned on, and then this is allowing us to have a slow attack when it's turned off. So with that in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the audio of the compressed signal. Now, what you're going to hear is it's going to sound super compressed, but what we're listening out for is the attack time. So keep in mind that how fast the attack time is coming in and how much it is acting.
Man, it's amazing because I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same.
So, with the fast attack time, we can hear that really biting down on the audio. So Stavro also suggests that a fast attack time will give us a thinner sound, whereas a slow attack time will give us a more thicker and bolder sound. So with that in mind, what we want for the chorus is we want it to sound bold and a lot more thicker. It is a chorus and we want it to stand out within the track. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this little light off, and this will allow us to have a slow attack time, which should result in the audio sounding a lot more thicker.
Man, it's amazing because I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same.
So as you can hear, with a fast attack time, it was very thin, but now we've got a lot more body and a lot more thickness within the audio. So moving on, Stavrov also suggests to work on the control of the release next. So basically what the control of the release is doing is to suit the tempo of the track. Now what I mean by this is we want to establish a groove. So the idea is to set the release time slow enough so that we have gain control over the movement. So let's go ahead and adjust it.
Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside. Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside. Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie.
Now around about there, to my ears, that sounds like the place to be. To me, you know, I can hear a groove within the vocals. I can hear a bit of movement, which is what we wanted. So moving on. Next, Stavrov suggests to use the ratio. Now, what we have here is that we've created movement. We've gained control. Now, what we want to do is to adjust the ratio accordingly so that we don't lose any of these effects. Now, a good way to look at this is that the higher the ratio, the smaller the sound. The lower the ratio, the bigger the image. So with that in mind, we're going to lower the ratio until we kind of lose the effect of the movement. And then we're going to increase it so that we can focus on the size of the image. So let's go ahead and do that.
Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside. Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside. Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie.
So that sounds about right there to me, to my ears. When we got down to around about sort of between 1 and 2 with the ratio, you know, obviously we did lose the effect of the control and the groove. So what we done was then increase the ratio a little bit more so that we got a bit more of a focused image. So finally, we have the threshold. Now, with the threshold, we don't want to be like overly compressing it. We don't want the sound to be lifeless. What we want to do is set the threshold correctly, so that we control the dynamic movement. So let's go ahead and do that.
Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same. Stay inside. Man, it's amazing cause I can't believe it happened. Everywhere around the world, it's the same thing. Gotta keep that mask up, stay inside, homie. Pandemic outside, things will never be the same.
So around about there, that's sitting nicely for me. I can hear the movement still. You know, we're not overly compressing it. We're not squashing the audio. Now, it's easy to think, you know, when you look at audio waveform, it's like, oh my God, we've got all these, you know, these peaks, these transients, you know, you want to try and tame them, but it's easy to kind of go ahead and just increase the threshold so you think that it's squashing it. Realistically, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be squashing all of the dynamics within the audio. You know, you're going to lose the performer's dynamic range. You know, they might have put a bit of emphasis on a word in particular, which you don't want to lose. You just want to control it. So that's what we've done there, basically. So that is the vocal chain. Now, like I said earlier, we've got 2 effect sends. We've got a widener, and then we've also got a auto-tune send. Now, the auto-tune send is a whole nother video in itself, so I'm briefly going to talk about that, but I will focus a little bit more on the widener. So here we have the Echo Boy. Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a delay to make the chorus a little bit wider, and you know, my option was to go for the Echo Boy. So with that in mind, the setting I have chose to use is the dual echo, which is down here, which basically splits the left and the right channel into echo 1 and echo 2. So left channel is echo 1, the right channel is echo 2. So this was to make the image a bit more wider and create a larger echo so that we, sorry, said that wrong. I wanted to create a wider image. So what I've done was I offset the echo. So we've got an 1/8 note here, and then we've got a 1/4 note triplet here. Now, like I said, I wanted to create a wider image, and by doing this, it kind of just created a little bit more movement within the delay and pushed it a bit further within the mix. So with these two, you know, it's basically, like I said a minute ago, we've got a wider image, and yeah, it's just sitting behind the mix. I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit there. Anyway, moving on a little bit more. Additionally, we have the saturation. So what the saturation is doing is it's saturating the sound subtly and adding a little bit of distortion to the delayed signal. So we haven't got an awful lot, it's just 1/4 of the way up. And then finally, we've got the style. Now, the style that I've chosen is ambient. Now, the ambient is a distortion and diffusion put together that creates a long feedback loop, which is great because I wanted to recreate a kind of like a modernized sound where, you know, it's very saturated, and, you know, I didn't want to put a lot of reverb on it, but I find that using the delay kind of achieved that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the actual effect without the audio. So let's mute this and let's solo this. So let's have a listen. So yeah, you get the idea. You know, there's a lot of movement there. It's keeping the listener excited, and it's also creating a little bit of movement within the chorus. Now, I'll briefly talk about the auto tune here. Like I said, this is a whole nother video in itself, so I shan't go into too much depth. So here we're using the auto tune effects. Basically what we've set the key to F minor, which is the same as the track. The retune speed is completely into the effects, and it's hard effects. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but ideally you get the gist. You know, we wanted to create an auto-tuned sound. This is how we've achieved it. This will be done in a later video, and I'll explain exactly all the different parameters and how you can create different sort of auto-tuned effects. Next in the chain is the Pro Q3. Now what I'm doing here is I've basically got a high and a low pass filter, so that we're just focusing predominantly on the presence range of the vocals. Now this is allowing us to push the vocals forward a little bit more with the auto-tune, and it's just creating a little bit more presence within the mix. And then finally we have the S1 imager. Yet again, this is used just to push the vocals out a little bit wider in the mix, create a bit more space, a bit more depth, and just make the chorus sound really full. So yeah, with all of that, that is our chain. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you straight away. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.